Thank you, brother. I love you, man. Appreciate you. Amen. Good morning. You got to excuse my voice. It is out, but just excuse the crackling. But hey, it is so awesome to be able to be with you guys today. What a joy it is to be able to be in God's house. And what a joy it is to be able to be with Pastor Steve and his wife. I'm sure I don't need to tell you, but you have some of the most amazing pastors on the planet. Would you give them a hand? Come on. Amen. Well, hey, it is awesome to be able to be with you and be able to hang out. My name is Sonksen. I'm the founder of South Hills Church. We have 12 campuses, and I'm also the founder of Church Boom. And what we do is we coach pastors and we rescue churches. So we've got 12 campuses. Our original one's in Corona, California, and we've got them all over the United States now. But then also we have Church Boom. We coach pastors, rescue churches, and we're going to talk about rescuing churches a little bit towards the end, and you're going to have an opportunity to rescue churches, because America right now is closing more churches than it opens. And how many know that the darker America church gets, the darker America gets? And we got to do something about it, because we've got churches closing like crazy, and we are going to have the opportunity to do something special today to be able to help churches across the United States. My beautiful wife is right here with me. Give her a big hand. Yeah. She's my beautiful Mexican wife. My little hot tamale, my hot tostada. And a little bit about me. We have 2 children, 2 adult children. They're absolutely amazing. And we have 2 grandchildren. How many grandparents do we have here? Let me see. Isn't it the best thing on the planet? It is so much better than parenting. It's God's gift to you for you not killing your own kid. That's what it really is. I was holding my adult son recently, and my son, or I hold my adult son. I hold my granddaughter recently. I can barely hold my adult son. I was holding my granddaughter recently, and my adult son says to me, "Hey, Dad, it's like you love her more." I said, "No, it's not like I do. I do. You had a good run. It's over for you." It is awesome. So it is so good to be able to be with you. I want to minister to you for a few minutes and then turn the corner at the end, and Pastor Steve will lead us at the end. We're going to have an opportunity to rescue some churches today, churches that are dying, churches that need help. I'll explain more of that at the end. But if you got a Bible, we'll go there in just a moment. If you got a Bible, go to the book of John, chapter 5. If you don't have a Bible, next time you're at a hotel, get one. They're free. I steal them all the time, and then I sell them on eBay. It's a side hustle. But quite a while back, I was, and I'll jump right into it. A few years ago, I went to Costa Rica. How many have been to Costa Rica before? We're not talking about Costa Rica, the nice area. Costa Rica, the third world country area. And we went to Costa Rica. I took a buddy with mine, and we were going to speak at some conferences together. We had one day off in Costa Rica, a whole day and an evening off. So the night before, I went to the front desk and I said to the lady, "Hey, me and my buddy got the whole day off tomorrow. We've been speaking a lot, but we got the whole day off tomorrow night. What would you do if you were in Costa Rica the whole day? What should we go do?" She goes, "You should go ziplining." You know, she has an accent. "You should go ziplining on the Sarapiqui River." Sarapiqui River is where they filmed Jurassic Park. How many have ever ziplined before? Have you ever ziplined before? See, here in America, they use a cable. In the third world country, it's dental floss. And ziplining is you put a harness on, you hook onto it, you kind of do a Tarzan thing, and you slide from one tree to the next. At some points at the Sarapiqui River, you are 60 stories in the air because of the ravine. Imagine one harness, one cable, one clip, 60 stories in the air. It was crazy. So anyway, I'm like, "Okay, sign us up." She signs us up. Next morning, we wake up at 6 in the morning, we get out to the lobby, the bus picks us up. There's a bus that's kind of for the little tour of people that are going to go ziplining. It seats 60 people. There's only 5 people on the bus. And I'm like, this is so weird. So we go up for 2 hours up into the rainforest, and we're driving up there, and there is nothing around. Us, me and my friend, 5 other people, and the 2 people that are driving the bus and the guide. And I'm thinking, they're going to kill us. This is like a scene from Criminal Minds. They're taking us to the rainforest. So we go all the way up, 2 hours driving. Then we go 1 hour boat ride, and then 1 hour horseback ride. That's how deep we were in the jungle. 2 hours, 1 hour. Oh, thank you, my brother. 2 hours, 1 hour, and then 1 hour. So there's all of this going on, and now we're deep into the jungle, right? We are deep into this jungle. And so now we go up to where the guide is. They've got this little hut. We go up, and they harness you on. They put, get you all ready. And I'm like, okay. And the guy goes, okay, go with this man. Go with this man. You go with this man. I said, okay, good. And I said, but wait a minute. And now keep in mind, they put the harness on there. We did 2 hours, 1 hour boat ride, 1 hour. We're way deep in the jungle. The guy puts the harness on us. And I said, hey, I said, we just go with him? He goes, yes. I go, but we didn't sign anything. The third world country. And he goes, what do you mean? I go, aren't you afraid? I go, like, what if we die? Aren't you afraid of getting sued? And he goes, oh, you Americans. He says, if you die, we leave. Literally, that's what he said to me. I'm like, okay. So we go ziplining, and we're going along, and about the 7th, 8th, 9th run, I'm sitting there on the tree, hooked to the tree. They got little hooks, and I'm leaning 60 stories in the air on the ravine, and the guide is right there, and the other ones are starting to come down. They're ziplining down. I look at the guide, and I'm thinking the whole time, man, this guide looks really young. I mean, he just looks really young to me. So I looked at him, I said, hey, buddy, I go, how old are you? I'll never forget. I go, how old are you? He's the one in charge of us. He's the one hooking us up. I go, how old are you? He goes, 15. I go, what did you say? He goes, 17? Like that made it better. Oh, 17, And so it was an incredible trip. We had an amazing time. And we came back down the boat, or the horseback. Then we went to the boat ride. Then we went on to the bus. The bus gets stuck in the mud. It's got 300 inches of rain a year there. And it got stuck in the mud. And it's just peeling out the entire time. And we get out, and they have us pushing the bus. That wasn't in the brochure, by the way. But we're pushing the bus the entire time, and it's stuck. And I began to think about how many times do you and I feel stuck? Like maybe we feel stuck because we're not as far along in life as we thought we would be. Maybe we feel stuck because we're in bitterness or in anger or resentment. Maybe we feel stuck today because we're in debt. Maybe we'll feel stuck today because we're addicted to something. Maybe we feel stuck because of something that happened in our life and we can't seem to get to the other side. And here's what I want to show you. There's something called life before the wall. Put it out there for me. This is life before the wall. This is you. Everything is happy. Life before the wall. Say life before the wall. Everything is happy. Everything is good. You're having a great time. The Dodgers are winning. It's going good. Life is great. You're having a great time. You're making money. Life's good. Relationship's good. Dodgers are winning. Everything's going well. And then all of a sudden, something happens. And now you have life in the wall. This is when the Dodgers go to the playoffs, where they always come through strong. And all of a sudden, now it's life in the wall. And you and I get there in life in the wall, where all of a sudden it's like, man, okay, life was going good, and now all of a sudden I'm in debt, or I'm having struggles, or I'm having issues, and we get inside of the wall. I thought I'd be farther along in life. I thought my marriage would be better. I thought I would be doing better financially. I thought I would have forgave that person for the thing that happened a long time ago, but I'm living inside of the wall. Once you're inside of the wall, you really have two choices. Ready? Here they are. You have two choices. You either stay, watch this, you stay in the wall, or you get to the other side of the wall. Listen to me, folks, this is important. You only have two choices. You either, watch this, you stay in the wall, or what? Get to the other side of the wall. But pay attention to this, because there's no such thing as life before the wall. It's over. Whatever happened has happened. There's nothing you can do about it. You either stay in the wall or you get to the other side of the wall, because there is no such thing as life before the wall. You've got to somehow make a decision today. I'm either going to stay in the wall or I'm going to get to the other side of the wall, because there's no such thing as life before the wall. In John chapter 5, there's a great story. Jesus walks into the gates of Jerusalem. I've been there before. It's really amazing. And he walks into the gates of Jerusalem, and there's a holy festival going on. He walks over to an area called the Pool of Bethesda, which means the Pool of Mercy. Okay, now watch this. He walks over to the Pool of Bethesda. There are 5 porches around the pool, places where you can hide and shade. And here's what would happen. People that were sick would lay under the porch. When the bubble would rise up, the water would start bubbling. If they made it there in time, they would be healed of whatever their sickness is. And if they didn't make it, they go back to the porch and they lay under the porch to kind of guard them a little bit from the sun. Okay, so 5 porches and then this pool of Bethesda. This is the story. Now, Jesus has an encounter with one of the guys laying under the porch, avoiding the shade. Now, let's take a look at what it says in John chapter 5, verses 1. We'll start with verse 1. Afterward, Jesus returned to Jerusalem for one of the Jewish holy days. Inside the city near the sheep gate was the pool of Bethesda, which means what? The pool of what? All 3 of you remembered. Good. All right. With 5 covered porches, crowds of sick people, blind, lame, paralyzed, lay on the porch. One of the men lying there had been sick for how long? Okay, now, I want you to imagine this. Jesus walks up. There's 5 porches. They're all laying under there to avoid the heat. When the water bubbles up, the angel bubbles the water up, they can come over and they get healed. This guy's been sick for 38 years. 38 years. Now, it doesn't say he's been going to this pool for 38 years, but let's say he's been doing it for 5 years. 5 years. 5 times 365 over 1,500 days. For 1,500 days, he'd wake up in the morning, lay under the porch, try to make it to the water, not make it, go back home. Then he comes back out the next day, lays under the porch, tries to make it to the water, and doesn't make it. For, let's say, 1,500 times. For 5 years, this man keeps trying to go and get healed. Here's the bottom line. It would occur to me that maybe his system isn't working. You know what I mean? Like, hey, maybe I need to ask someone's help. Maybe I need to get someone to carry me. Something isn't working. The man has been there for years, and he's been coming out to this water for years, and for whatever reason, his system isn't working. And the reason I say that is because I want to ask you that question here with you. Is it possible that your system isn't working? Hey, I've been stuck for 5 years in bitterness. Your system isn't working. I'm still in debt because your system isn't working. I'm still addicted because your system isn't working. Whatever the reason is, we get stuck inside of that wall. We all get there. And that man was there for years. And he couldn't get to the other side of the wall. And his system wasn't working. There was something wrong with the way he was doing things. And here's the bottom line. Put it on the screen for me. You can't change your future until you disrupt your present. You can't. You can't change the future. You can't change your future until you disrupt your present. Something has to change about the present for the future to change. If you want the future to change, something's got to change inside of the present. Whatever that is for you, something's got to change inside of there. And you can't change the future until you're willing to disrupt your present. I've written a bunch of books, and one of the books I wrote was called Quit Church, with a subtitle, Because Your Life Would Be Better If You Did. When you're a pastor and you write a book called Quit Church, people have something to say about it. And I wrote a book called Quit Church, and it did extraordinarily well. The best that any of my books have ever done. I've written 7 books. This one did well. #1 on Reddit, #1 on Amazon. It was on Fox News and Friends. It was on TV. It was going really, really well. And it normally just lasts for like a week or 2, and then everybody forgets about the book. But it went wild for a while. And I'll never forget, I write a book called Quit Church. A lot of people, when it came out on Fox News, we had 100,000 emails in 1 hour. People are letting, some people are like, what is this Quit Church? They weren't getting it. The book isn't about not going to church. The book is about going all in with God. Like some of us just kind of go to church to kind of mark it off a checklist. No, it's more about go in all with God and get to the other side of the wall if you're living in the wall. That's the whole point of the book. So anyway, I fly to, I think, Dallas or whatever, and I get picked up by a hotel shuttle late at night. I'm sitting on the hotel shuttle, and the book is really hot. We were just on Fox News and Friends. We were on TV, on all stuff. And I'm sitting right behind this person, these 2 ladies, and they're in front of me on this shuttle after they pick us up from the airport, taking us to the hotel. I'm sitting right behind these 2 ladies, and I could tell by the way they're talking that they're Christians. And they're both kind of talking back and forth, and whatever. And one of them says to the other one, I'm sitting right behind them. One of them says to the other, it was just on Fox News. One of them says to the other, hey, have you heard of this book? And the other lady goes, what book? And the lady goes, Quit Church. And I'm sitting right behind them. And I lean over and I'm looking at them, like I'm sitting behind them. I lean over, look at their phone. I'm like, oh, they're talking about my book. And the other lady goes, quit church? What kind of book is that? I don't know. Some guy wrote it. Some guy, what kind of guy? I don't know. He's from California. From California? Yeah, apparently he's a pastor. I'm sitting right behind him. The lady says, and I quote, he's not a pastor, he's an idiot. And I'm sitting right behind them. And I'm thinking, you can't write this stuff. This is too good. And they start getting so worked up between the two of them. They're all, yeah, that's the problem with America. Because anybody says that's the problem with America clearly has the answers. And they're going back and forth. Yeah. And then they're sitting there just going back and forth. They turn around and they invite me into the conversation. It's so awesome. And they're like, hey, can you believe it? And I'm acting like I wasn't paying attention. What's going on? I'm back here praying and fasting. What's happening? And they said, can you believe it? And I said, what? And she goes, can you believe this book? It's called Quit Church. And she puts it up on, her phone and shows me. And I'm like, oh, wow, And I said, yeah. And she goes, can you believe a pastor would write this? I'm like, oh, man, that's crazy. And she goes, have you heard of the book? And I said, I have heard of the book. Then the best line was, she says, have you read it? And I said, I'll give you one even better than that. I wrote it. And the other lady goes, that's not true. And I know what she's doing. She's looking for my picture. She finds my picture. She puts the cell phone right up next to my head. And she freaks out. And I'm like this. And here comes the apologies. We're so sorry. Man, had we known you were here, we wouldn't have talked bad about you. Spoken like a true believer. We would have waited to talk behind your back like God intended. So we get off the shuttle, we go and stand in line at the hotel, whatever the desk. There's 4 or 5 people in front of us. And the lady begins to tell me, okay, it meant all her struggles. A few years ago, she divorced her husband. He abused her. She got out of that relationship. And she's been bitter ever since and angry. And I said, ma'am, you need to read the book. It's not about quitting church. It's about quitting your approach to church. God wants, if you go all in for God, he'll go all out for you. If you let go of what's in your hands, he'll let go of what's in his hands. And if you just give God a chance, you can get to the other side of the wall. You should read the book. So I gave her my email and said, if I can ever help you, let me know. Fast forward a couple of years later, I get this email out of nowhere. And it's from this lady. And she opens up. She goes, dear Pastor Chris, I don't know if you remember us. I'm like, oh, I remember you. All the encouragement I felt from you. And she goes, I don't know if you remember us. And then she goes on and basically, would you come and speak to my leadership? And I'm thinking, she goes, we're about 30 minutes away from where you live, where you said you lived. And she was. A few weeks later, I'm standing there on a Tuesday, Wednesday night, whatever it was. And I'm standing there in front of 25 people. Come to find out, I taught them some leadership. This is her leadership. Because in the last 2 years, here's what's happened. She went and got counseling and got healed up. She ended up getting a license to preach and became a pastor. She started a home for men that are addicted and for women that have been abused, and that's the leadership team that she has. She did that all in 2 years, and I'm standing there, and I'm like, this is an amazing story. After the thing, I love what she said. She leaned in, and she says, I got to the other side of the wall. This is what it's really all about. It really is about getting to the other side of the wall. I don't know why you're in the wall, but we all get there. Hey, man, I've got my wounds. I've got people that have hurt me, things that have happened to me, things that have put me in the wall, things that I still get counseling for, things that I just feel like, man, I'm in that wall, and I want to get to the other side of the wall. Because I understand I only have 2 options. I either stay in the wall or get to the other side of the wall, because there's no such thing as life before the wall. I can't go back. So I got to decide, what is God? How am I going to get to the other side of this wall? I don't want to live in the wall anymore. And I don't know why you're in the wall, what brought you here, or maybe you're in that wall for some reason, but just understand something. There's a God in heaven who is crazy in love with you, and he wants what's best for your life, and he wants you to win in your marriage, and win in your life, and win in your finances, and win in your relationships. He wants you to win. And he just is inviting you to get to the other side of the wall. Because often we live right inside of that wall. Let's go back to the story. Pick it up where we left off. Remember, Jesus walks up, 5 porches, a guy laying there, been laying there for years, trying to get healed. His system wasn't working, just like you and I, our system isn't working. You got to disrupt the present if you want your future to change. Okay, now Jesus comes and addresses this guy that's been sick for 38 years. Look what it says. When Jesus saw him and knew he had been ill for a long time, I love this, he asked him a very simple question. Would you like to get well? Let's stop right there. Leave it out on the screen for me. Isn't this the most easy? Don't miss this. It doesn't get any easier. This isn't a complex question. Jesus just looks at him and goes, do you want to get well? Yes or no? It's not theological. It's not deep. He doesn't have to look up some dictionary. It's just, do you want to get well? Yes or no? What is amazing to me is it's not the simplicity of Jesus' question. Stay with me. It's not the simplicity of Jesus' question. It's the man's answer that just puzzles me. And here's why, and amazes me, is because the man's answer tells me why he's stuck in the wall. You caught that? Okay, Jesus' simplicity of his question isn't what really is amazing me. What's amazing me is the man's answer, because his answer reveals why he's stuck in the wall. First 2 words after Jesus says, do you want to get well? Yes or no? It's a yes or no question. Do you want to get well? First 2 words, I what? Come on, one more time, I what? I can't. First thing is, do you want to get well? I can't. I didn't ask that. I asked you want to get well? Yes, I can't. I'm not able to. He's already starting his excuses. They're already starting. I can't. I can't do it. Why? Well, let's see, the sick man said, look what it says. For I have no one to put me into the pool when the water bubbles up. Remember, you got to get the water bubbles up to get healed. In white, read the white words with me. Ready? Someone, come on, one more time. Someone always gets in the way. Are you catching this? Do you want to get well? Yes or no? I can't, because someone else always gets in my way. It's not my fault. Hey, it's not my fault that I'm in the wall. It's not my fault that I'm stuck here. It's someone else's fault. It's someone else's issue. You see, the man couldn't answer a yes or no question. Why? Because he got so used to the stories he kept telling himself over and over and over. It isn't my fault, it's someone else's fault. It's not my issue that I'm here, it's just someone else's issue I'm here. The man was so used to telling stories of why he wasn't there, and I think you and I get to the same place. Hey, let me tell you why I'm here. Because my dad abandoned me. Let me tell you why I act this way. Because my mom. And let me tell you why I get bitter. Because, man, when I was growing up, this guy got to go to college. I didn't get to go to college. My parents didn't give me any money. Let me tell you, the husband left me, the wife left me. Let me tell you why. And I am not saying that whatever happened to you didn't hurt, because I got my own hurts. What I'm saying is this. At some point, you have to stop making excuses and start taking responsibility and say, it's time for me to get to the other side of the wall. Because that's the only choice you have. Make excuses in the wall or get to the other side of the wall. That's all we got. And that's what I want to challenge you today. I want to challenge you. Put it on there for me. The story you keep telling yourself. What's the story you keep telling yourself? And challenge that story. Why do I keep telling myself that story? And we all have ways of making excuses. Quite a few years back, I was speaking regularly at one of our campuses. I don't speak regularly at our campuses anymore, but I was in Corona, California. And I was at the office, and I text my wife. I'm like, hey, I'm going to be coming home. You need anything from the store? She says, yep. She gives me a little list. I said, okay. So I stopped by Albertsons or whatever on the way home. As I'm going home, I stop Albertsons, I get all the stuff, I put it on the cash register, and they ring it up. $25.87. It was like 3 or 4 different items. Now, $25.87 would get you an egg. Just one. Not a whole dozen, just an egg. And it's at $25.87. So she says, okay, go ahead, sir. And she goes, oh, the tap doesn't work. You got to slide the card. I go, okay, no problem. I pull out my card. I go to slide it, and it says on the ATM, the little machine, it says declined. How many has that ever happened before? Come on, be honest. And what do we say? I don't know why. I got so much money. I was at the bank this morning. I know I got money in this account. We all do that, don't we? And I did the same thing. I don't know why. I got plenty of money. And the lady behind was like, okay, loser, whatever. I go, come on, man, let me slide it again. I'll slide it again. Come on, let me do it. No. She said, you got to get out of line. La, 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 la. I finally talk her into it. Slide it again. Declined. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. Now, the manager's coming over, he's getting a little upset. He wants me to get out of the line. The line's growing behind me. Some guy in the back's like, Pastor Chris, is that you? And I'm like, no, it's his twin brother, Craig. And All this is happening, and I tell the manager, come on, man, let me just slide the card one more time. Just let me slide it one more time. And he'll, no. I go, please. He resets it. He goes, okay, fine. He resets it. I go down here to grab my wallet again, and I'm kind of like right here, and I look, and I realize the entire time I haven't been sliding my Chase card. I've been sliding my Chevron card. But I'm down here like this, and so I just put the Chevron card away. I pull out the Chase card. I don't let them see it, and I slide it, and it says approved. And the manager's like, oh, sir, we're sorry. I said, I hope so. I have a reputation in this town. Come on. Now, I'm just going to flat out be honest with you, and don't you love it when a pastor says, can I be honest with you? Because I'm always thinking, what have you been doing up to this point? But being in full honesty, I didn't tell them the truth. I didn't lie. I just slid the thing, and I'm like, I don't want to admit it. The people are in line. I was just like, okay, well, thank you for approving it. Let me get my egg. And I was just out. I did not want to admit it. I didn't want to say that I was responsible. I didn't want to admit. I'm just telling you the truth. I flat out just walked away thinking, I don't want to admit it. It's too embarrassing. I don't want to confess and be responsible. I think you and I do the same thing when we're inside of the wall. If we can just find someone else to blame or something else to blame or some problem that happened a year ago or 20 years ago or whatever, we can find some reason. That's what the man did. Hey, it ain't my fault, Jesus. It's someone else always gets it. Something else is always the problem. It isn't my fault. And I think you and I do the same exact thing, and we find ourselves living inside of that wall. I don't know if you're there right now, but I just know this much. God just wants you to get to the other side of the wall. And man, He has dreams for your life. He has hopes for your life. He has aspirations for your life. There's a God in heaven who wants you to win and wants you to succeed and wants you to go after everything He has for you. Believe me, I know. I've got issues from people that have hurt me over the years. My dad passed away just 2 months ago, and we ended up okay, but it was very rough in my childhood, and it wasn't exactly the greatest thing in the world in growing up. I remember when I was 17 years old, and I didn't grow up in a Christian home. We didn't go to church. I got invited to a youth group, went to a youth group when I was 14, 15, gave my heart to the Lord. By the time I was 17, I knew I wanted to be in ministry. My dad asked me, standing in the hallway at 3481 Grant Street, he said, son, he goes, what are you going to do when you graduate in a couple months? I'm 17 years old. I said, Dad, I'm going to go to Bible college. I don't know how I'm going to pay for it, but I'm going to go to Bible college. I'm going to learn to preach. I'm going to travel. I'm going to start churches, and I'm going to change the world for Jesus. And I was 17. He looked at me, I'll never forget. He goes, son, there's no way you can do that. You don't have what it takes. You're no good. And I went in my room, and I just was so hurt by that. I'll never forget it. I was like, it was yesterday. I can take you right to the hallway at 3481 Grand Street where it happened. And I sat there and on the edge of my bed, and I began to cry, and I felt like God got a hold of my heart and said, don't stop crying for a second. How you determine these next couple minutes will determine the rest of your life. And this is what God said to me, Chris, here's the bottom line. You can believe what your earthly father says about you, or you can believe what your heavenly father says about you. You make the choice. And I chose to believe what my heavenly father says about me. And I think you have that same thing when you're stuck inside of that wall. And sometimes we don't get out of that wall because we blame people. Sometimes we don't become everything God ever intended for us to be because fear gets in our way, or doubt gets in our way. Come on. Insecurity gets in our way. Here's a big one. Other people's opinions get in our way. Isn't that true? Isn't it funny how we listen to people? I always find it fascinating how we listen to negative and broke people. Is that true? Because here's the bottom line. Because people will always pull you down to a level that's comfortable for themselves. You know why they do that? Because your desire for excellence threatens their mediocrity. That's why. And that's what happens. And for whatever, that may be a reason, fear, doubt, pain, hurt, resentment, debt, I don't know. But for some reason, we end up inside of that wall, and we always find a reason not to get outside of that wall. And here comes Jesus along with him. Do you want to get well, yes or no? You're going to have to not make excuses. And this man kept making excuses over and over and over. Now, let's go back to the scripture. Let's pick it up where we left off. Jesus told him, stand up, pick up your mat, and walk. Instantly, the man was healed. He rolled up his sleeping mat and began walking. Now, I think this is one of the funniest scriptures. To me, it's kind of humorous. Not humorous, I guess humorous, but just interesting to me. The man says, now picture this. I can't. Someone else always gets in my way. It's not my fault. It's someone else's fault. Jesus doesn't even acknowledge the man's excuses. His first response is, stand up and walk. But wait, Jesus, you don't understand. I'm in this wall. Just stand up and walk. It's not that he didn't care that the man was in the wall. It's not that he didn't care about the man's emotions. The point was, look, you can come up with all the excuses you want. He didn't even acknowledge him. He just said, stand up and walk, would you? And I wonder if Jesus would come and sit next to you if you were by yourself in this auditorium, put his arm around you, and you're like, Jesus, here's all the reasons I'm there. I wonder if he would just look at you and just say, just get out of the wall. Would you do that now, please? I'm here. If you want to get out, get out. I'm ready whenever you are. No more excuses, no more reasons, no more whatever. Just stand up and get to the other side of the wall. You see, here's the bottom line. You don't always have the power to control, but you always have the power to surrender. You do. Hey, I can't control it. You can't control what happened to you, who hurt you. You can't always control, you can't control who the parents that brought you up, the mistakes that they made, the things that the wounds in your life. You can't control all of that. But you always have the power to surrender. God, I'm just going to give in to you. And whatever you want from my life, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to walk with you, and I'm going to follow you, and I'm going after everything you have for my life. That's just a choice. You don't have the choice to control, because that just sometimes is out of your control. That's life. But you do have the power to surrender. We all have the power to surrender, and so do I. And you can surrender too. You see, every day, this man would wake up in the morning, make his way to the porch, lay in there under there for the shade. The water bubbles up, tries to get there, doesn't make it, goes back home, sleeps through the night, comes back out, goes to the porch, waits again, did it over and over and over and over, hundreds and hundreds of times. I think it would be really amazing, La Palma Church. I think it would be amazing if we all decided right now, I'm not coming back to that porch anymore. I am not coming back to the porch anymore. That's it. When I walk out of this might just feel like another Sunday to you. I don't think it is. I think you can walk out of here and just say, this is the day that changed everything. This is the day where addiction was broken. This is the day where I decided to get out of debt. This is the day where I decided to get counseling for my marriage. This is the day where I decided to get help because I'm wounded from betrayal. I'm stuck inside of the wall. And this is the day I decided to make a decision to start getting out of the wall because I'm not coming back to this wall again. You can do that. We all can do that. We have to make that choice. And I want to challenge you to make that choice. Now, I'm going to pray real quick, but we're not done. Because I told you we're going to have an opportunity to rescue some churches. I'm going to totally relate everything we just talked about to rescuing churches. But I don't want to miss this moment. If you're here today, we don't need music or anything. I just want to pray with you and pray over you. Real quick. Would you close your eyes with me real quick, and then we'll continue. Father, help each one of us that are in the wall. Matter of fact, just real quick, would you just put up your hand and just say, I feel stuck in the wall in some areas of my life? Come on, raise your hand up in the air. Wow, whoa, that's a lot of hands. Jesus, you see every single one of these hands. God, see them all. Help us to get to the other side of the wall today. Help us, Lord, I pray, to get to the other side of the wall. And if we're not in a place where you are first in our life, help us to change that today. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Now, let me turn the corner. I told you I'm the founding pastor of South Hills Church. We got a bunch of campuses. We started Church Boom. We coach pastors all across the nation, just like your amazing pastor. We've got tons of coaches. We're coaching and helping over 300 churches right now per month, so that's a lot of churches. However, one thing I want to talk to you about just quickly is rescuing churches, because we're going to have the opportunity to rescue some churches today. Let me help you understand a little bit about the church. Put it up on the screen for me. Here's slide number 1. This is life before the wall. Say it one more time, life before the wall. Okay, life before the wall. Look at the church. Now watch this. Just stay with me. I'll be done in a few minutes, and we're going to watch a video. I'm going to give you a free book in a second. Hold on. Life before the wall. Okay, this is the church, life before the wall. In the 1950s and 60s, did you know that the church population was outgrowing America population? Meaning, more people were joining Christian churches than babies were being born. Isn't that amazing? That was in the 1950s and 60s. But then, in the last 10, 20 years, things began to change. Well, let's be honest, in the last 10 months, things have changed. Okay, it's gone crazy. But in the last 10 or 15 years, take a look at this. Here's some of the problems that happened. The blue line, that represents people that go to church on a weekly basis in America. It's going down. The yellow line is the amount of people that no longer go to church. That number's going up, and it continues to climb. Now, you got a lot of people here because you have an amazing pastor, but this is not normal in America. This is a major problem. Less people are going to church than ever before. We're losing in here in America when it comes to the Christianity, and we got to do something about it. Here's problem number 2. Between 6,000 to 10,000 churches in the U.S. are dying each year. That means 100 to 200 churches will close this week. Folks, hold on, time out. 100 to 200 churches will have their final service this morning. What do you think about that? We're all here having a good time. We're going to hang out. You're all going to go eat more than we should, all that stuff. But 100 to 200 churches right now, are having their last service ever. And it's happening in astronomical numbers. Matter of fact, for every 1,000 churches America opens, we close 2,000. Folks, how many would admit we're going the wrong way? We can't just sit idly by. Here's problem number 3, real quick. 46% of pastors under the age 45 are considering quitting ministry. Over the last year, America's averaged 1,500 pastors a month are quitting ministry because it's so discouraging. Here's another one. 76% of pastors admit to feeling inadequate or for the job, and they need help. So folks, listen to me. We are closing more churches than we open, and the gap is getting wider every year. 84% of churches are in decline. And this is happening on our watch. This is not happening on our great-grandparents' watch. This is happening on our watch. And you know what I believe? I believe revelation requires responsibility. When you figure out something, when you get a revelation to something, it requires a responsibility. So you know what we did? We did this. We got together with a bunch of pastors about 3 years ago. And 15, 20 pastors of big old churches, all in Dallas, Texas. I brought them all together in a room, and I said, hey guys, we got a major problem. America's closing more churches than we open, and that's happening on our watch. If we continue this path, we are 15 years away from having more mosques in America than Christian properties. This is where we're headed. This is what's happening. And I said, guys, we've got a major issue going on here. And I said, we could all just go back to our big old churches and just be fine and just ride into the sunset. But revelation requires responsibility. You can't know something and not do something. Knowing causes you to have to do something. So I sat there and I'm like, guys, what could we do? And we're all sitting there talking, well, all these churches that are dying, what could we do? And finally I said, hey man, I got this idea. And I asked the pastors in the room, I go, how many of you guys ever seen Bar Rescue? None of them wanted to raise their hand, like, oh no, never. I'm always worshiping when it's on. And I'm like, liar. I said, how many ever seen Bar Rescue? They raised their hand. I said, what if we created something called Church Rescue? Like Bar Rescue, where we go in and we work with these churches that are dying and that are 30 or 20 people and they're dying, and we help get them back to being healthy again. What if we did that? Wouldn't that be amazing if we did that? And they're like, yeah. And I go, so we'll find churches that are like 30, 40, 50 and dying. We'll bring them in. We'll put them on Zoom calls. We'll work with them for an entire year. We'll give them free funding if they need help. We'll give them free retreats in the Rocky Mountains in Tennessee and other places we've been sending pastors. We'll do that all for free. And everybody's like, that's awesome, man. How are we going to pay for it? And I said, I got no idea. But what a concept, and everybody's like, wow, And so we just came up with this idea. We just thought, well, what if we just started partnering with amazing friends like Steve Bland? And what if we started partnering with churches that just said, okay, we're going to rescue churches. That ain't going to be free. It seems logical to me, you guys, that the healthy churches would help the unhealthy churches. Because we got to care about the big C, not just this church. And so, man, and I know that this church knows about rescuing churches because you guys have done it before. You've helped churches in the area. We're now just going to partner together and say, let's go nationwide with this thing. Let's go nationwide. And let's start helping churches across America. Because here's the bottom line. Put it on the screen for me. Here's the bottom line, is that the church is now in the wall. We talked about life in the wall. The church is in the wall. When you're closing more than you open, when you have 84% in decline, when you got pastors quitting, we got problems. And so we just decided we wanted to do something about it. And that's why we're here. So, yeah, we're coaching, we're partners. You guys rescue churches. But today we have an opportunity to help rescue churches. It takes about $2,000 per church to rescue. And that doesn't, no funding. That's just we send them on a retreat and we give them a year free of coaching. Right now we have over 300 in the program. And they're signing up every time, all the time. And more churches getting rescued and more churches getting rescued. And so you're going to have an opportunity to do that. But before we do that, I would love to give you a free gift just in advance. Your pastor's going to take an offering, and you guys, man, I just pray that God would help us just to give and to give big. But before we do that, I'd love to give you a free gift. If you have your phone, that's the thing that you've been acting like you're taking notes on, but you're really texting. Pull that thing out. And I want you to take a picture of the QR code and get a highlight. You put your name, you put your email, and it'll download a free book. What is this book about? It's 11 stories from churches across the nation who have been rescued. It's like a chicken soup for the soul, but for churches. And this literally will move your heart tremendously. It's absolutely free. Just want to give it to you. The QR code's there. But give your name, your email, and it'll download to your email, and you can read it on wherever you read things. And it's a free book to you. And I want to thank you in advance for helping get the church to the other side of the wall. Because all I know is that the Church of Jesus Christ is bleeding out in the emergency room. And we got to get it out of the emergency room. It's happening. We can get closed-minded and say, hey, man, my church is fine. And you're right, your church is fine because you have great leaders. But that's not the church in America. And we got to do something about it. So before your pastor comes, I want to show you a quick video of a pastor in a church in New Mexico. Their church had a handful of people left. They were hurting financially. New pastor came in, didn't know what to do. They were weeks away from closing the church. We came alongside. We partnered with them over the last year and a half, 2 years. And man, all of a sudden that church went from 50 to 100 to 200 to 300. Last week they had 404 people in their church. It's a rescued church. This is a story of one rescued church. There are hundreds that we have rescued, but this is a story of one rescued church. This story proves that rescued churches rescue people, and I believe rescued churches will rescue America. Check out this video, and then your pastor will come.
The story of this church and the way that it began is one that was built off of failure. There was a church split, and our church began. About 20 years later, the pastor of the church ended up in moral failure. Really, they ended up weathering some pretty tough years. And at the end of that, they had gone back to about 60 or 70 on a good weekend, and that was about the time that we came. Pastoring before church boom came into our life was scary. It was very difficult. We had never been in this position before. And as we came here, man, I wasn't really sure what to do. I wasn't sure how to make the dreams in my heart actually come to life with what God had told us.
As a pastor's wife, you do your best to support your husband. What was difficult was honestly to see him frustrated because he had vision, but he didn't have direction. He didn't know what questions he should be asking.
I was an addict for years. I was at home and I was drinking, and all the family was gone doing something. I was just sitting in my chair drinking whiskey by myself, and we got a call that my wife's mom got hit by a drunk driver. Woke up in the morning and that whiskey was still there, dumped it out. And get rid of it all. Started going to church.
Growing up, I just had more of that religious background rather than the relationship with Christ. So then as time went on, I just kept thinking to myself, like, man, there has to be more to God than just this. Like, we can't live up to this. I got really sad and angry and bitter. And instead of like realizing what it was, I started taking it out on my husband. As time progressed, I started having an emotional affair with this man. And after I had a physical affair with him, I remember going into the bathroom and looking in the mirror and saying, "Who am I? Who is this? I have never felt the Holy Spirit in my entire life." And whenever I worshiped for the first time at Waymaker, he just overtook me.
There was a sense of almost being rescued when Church Boom came, because I didn't know what questions to ask. I didn't know what I should be looking for. And even in my coaching calls, I would tell Chris, I don't even know what I should be asking you right now. Would you help me? And I realized it wasn't until somebody with understanding came to help unlock the potential through the coaching. That's really what set us on that course. It's hard to place a value on what we've received through Church Boom, through the team at Church Boom, Pastor Chris himself. I'm also thankful that when they came in, the tools that Church Boom brought, it wasn't to get us to become something other than ourselves. And there's so many amazing resources that we're able to utilize.
When I think of this church, I think of happiness. I think of a place where I'm safe, where my family's safe.
Whenever I come to church now, I just feel so alive. Like, I look forward to it. I can't get enough of church. I need this place, and I couldn't do my life without Jesus and the people that are in this place.